So here's my prediction for the future. You will see new cities developed which solve a lot of problems that we've had up till now, and they will probably be built around nuclear plants. And people will get financial incentives to be near the nuclear plant, and those incentives will decrease in a radius around it. All right, now we're all watching the Bahamas some of the islands completely eliminated by the storms. Will we see more storms eliminating entire towns and cities? Yes. No matter what we do, and whether or not climate change is the problem that many think it is, whether or not that is true, we will certainly see more hurricanes wiping out more islands and more coastal places. So we're guaranteed that that's going to happen. Here's what I would like to throw into the mix. We really need to get good at quickly rebuilding entire towns, but rebuilding them better than they were. And I think we could get there if we made that an objective. So there are a lot of people working on, quick building constructions, building kits and 3D printed buildings and all that. So there's a lot happening, but I think it could it could move a lot further into building like perfect planned cities from scratch. Now, it's probably harder to rebuild where there once was a city because people own the different lands and you got to coordinate everything. And the roads are already where the roads are. So it's hard to change once you get going. But I would like to introduce the idea of building nuclear cities. Are you ready for this? What are the big objections with nuclear? Nobody wants to live near it. And where do you put the waste? Right? Those are the big problems. Nobody wants to live near a nuclear plant, and where do you put the waste? So I would like to suggest building entirely new cities, and let me go to the whiteboard here, in which I'll just throw out an idea. So again, this is sort of the bad idea. So the bad idea is that let's see if I can do this with my finger. Oh, it works. You put a nuclear plant, a brand new nuclear plant, where there's nothing around it. And then you say, this is going to be the beginning of a city. And the first zone around it, this zone is free electricity. So that zone would be, let's say, the people who live within 5 miles of it. If you live within 5 miles of it, your property is free, literally free. And so you can build on it. And your electricity will be free forever, which is very affordable because nuclear is so economical that they can do that. Then let's say the people who are in the next ring out, let's say here, so they're in the next outer ring, they don't get free anything, but everything is 50% off. So their land is 50% cheaper than it would be, and their electricity forever is 50% off. And then you say to people, you don't have to live here, but if you did, it'd be great. Now, would that be another situation where the poor people who are accepting the free electricity and the free land and the inexpensive housing, would this be another case where poor people are taking it in the shorts? Well, it would be optional, and you would want to make this zone really built from scratch to be escapable if you had a problem. So let's say there was any kind of nuclear event. You would want to make sure that the people near either had, either a safe place to go to or an underground, lead escape vault, or at least very large roads to get out of town very quickly. So, for example, if you were building a nuclear city, a nuclear plant in which you were building around it homes and businesses, you would have one road that's like a 15-road highway for 10 miles. So if anything goes wrong, everybody says, oh crap, they head to the one 15-lane highway and you're out in minutes. So you build it so you can escape as quickly as possible, no matter how badly things go wrong. Because with these nuclear meltdowns, you still have plenty of time. I mean, you've got hours and hours to get out of town, but you don't want to get locked up in traffic. So you just build the city so that you can't get locked up in traffic. What about the resale value? The resale value is irrelevant because it's going to be as good or better than when you got it. Because remember, you're going into a place that never had anything. It didn't have any homes, it didn't have any nuclear, it didn't have anything. It's just a blank field. So the value of the property in the beginning is low, and then it could increase over time. Now, what about storage? And where do you build a plant? Well, the best place to put a plant is where you already have one. So you could co-locate one where there is one for those places that don't have them. And I would imagine, I'd have to talk to an expert, but I don't know why they don't store the nuclear waste in the same area as the nuclear plant. Because it feels like that would be the obvious place to do it, right? So you put all your nuclear risk in one place where all the nuclear experts are. There may be a good reason to separate them. But I'm pretty sure we can handle the nuclear waste part. Now, as many of you know, the Generation 4 nuclear generators actually could use the nuclear waste from the Generation 3 type reactors. They actually can use their waste as fuel. So if you co-locate a Generation 4 right next to a Generation 3, the people who live around it would still say, well, it's just more nuclear, and I'm glad you put a Generation 4 plant there because that will reduce our risk from the waste because it just gets eaten up as fuel. Now, what are the other things that you would want to put around a nuclear plant? Well, if you're building a city from scratch, what about putting your most roboticized plants nearest the nuclear plant? Because robots need a lot of electricity. And here's the great thing. You can create a great deal of commerce with very few people in the blast zone. So if I shouldn't use that term, but if you're worried about being near the nuclear plant, put all your robots there and have them working on building, I don't know, the robots could be making solar panels. The robots could be building manufacturing stuff. So you could have more robots there, and that would increase your safety if you were worried about it. You could put desalinization plants nearby because they mostly need free energy. And my out-of-the-box idea is addiction. Imagine you create a city that's far away from everything, and it's optional to go there. Nobody has to go to the city. But if you do go to the city, you don't get to leave and come back without being a full body search and maybe a drug test. So in other words, it would be for addicts, a place to go where drugs can't easily get in and they can't easily leave it to go anywhere. But while they're there, it's a proper city. It's got proper jobs, it's got highways and places to live, and they can have families if they want. It's just that drugs can't get in and can't get out. So it's sort of an addiction recovery city, if you will, that some people might just need to live in forever. So those are the sorts of things you could do if you plan your city from scratch. So here's my prediction for the future. You will see new cities developed which solve a lot of problems that we've had up till now, and they will probably be built around nuclear plants. And people will get financial incentives to be near the nuclear plant, and those incentives will decrease in a radius around it. Now, suppose you said, that's enough of that. Yes, it's ironic that the nucleus of the city would literally be nuclear. You mean you can just keep the drugs out? Why didn't you say so? Well, you can keep them out better. So I'm talking about a city that you literally can't get in or out without being fully searched. So you wouldn't want to leave often. If you go to that city and you're an addict, don't take a job where you have to fly someplace. Right? Make sure that you're settling down within the city. Yeah, you'd probably need a wall. Not probably. You would definitely need walls around the city or some kind of security. They would be drug-free like prisons. Yeah, no, obviously there's no situation where you can't get drugs in, but you could certainly limit it to the point where it becomes a minor problem instead of a major one. Prisons find a way around it, but you could remember the people who would come to live in this place would be doing it voluntarily. So you're only getting the people who really want to stay off drugs. And they know that being physically away from them is part of the benefit of recovery. Or it's part of what helps them recover. No, you wouldn't have marijuana in a addiction recovery city. That would be a bad idea. Yeah, so all these ideas are testable.